What if Fort Knox doesn't have the gold that it's supposed to have? What are the implications for this? And what can we expect to happen here in the United States and worldwide if the audit, which is officially coming now down to Fort Knox, discovers that the whole thing is based on a lie? Let's get started. So friends, if you're new here on the channel, the Patriot Nurse channel, we talk about preparedness, survival with a lens of history informing our present. And so friends, when we look at history, it's been over 50 years since the gold reserves in Fort Knox have been audited. And there were problems even 50 years ago with the supposed audit and what it found. And honestly, the silence speaks volumes. So here's the thing. In 1974, it was a partial audit that was conducted on the gold in Fort Knox. Congress got to see some gold, but there was no third-party independent weigh-in or a check for actual purity of the gold. And this is when all of these conspiracy theories started to circulate about gold-plated tungsten, and they were never really confirmed or denied. And so because of that, really the silence has spoken volumes over the past several decades. If you've been in the preparedness world for a while, many of us who are aware of the actual shell game, which is fiat currency and the central bank actually pumping out a whole bunch of nothing dollars, we're aware that gold doesn't really back the United States dollar anymore. On the surface, it's kind of supposed to and give the international community a sense of trust, if that can be said, trust in our dollar and in the full faith backing of the United States government. But really, without gold, there's no basis whatsoever to hold a fiat currency stable. And so what we have been experiencing with this inflation over the past several years, this is really just the beginning. If the audit finds that A, the gold is not there at all, or B, it's in significantly less amounts than what they've claimed, which I actually think is probably the truth. One of the trends that we've seen internationally, not just with the United States gold reserves, but also with, for instance, the Bank of England, several countries seeing what the Biden administration did to Russia as far as sanctions and freezing their assets internationally, several countries started calling their gold back. This is one thing that's not commonly understood, is that a lot of countries hold gold not just in their territorial borders, but they vault their gold in different places throughout the globe. And so as currencies, particularly from COVID forward, have become more and more debased through central bank printing, many countries internationally have been calling back their gold reserves, devaulting their gold and bringing them back home domestically. India did this. They effectively rehomed it. They brought it home. And a lot of countries are doing this in response to the inflation that they're seeing. And not just in their own currencies, but in ours, the United States dollar, because effectively we are the global reserve currency. So what happens then? I ask you this question. Leave me a comment below. What happens then if everybody and their brother figures out now that the global reserve currency has no backing at all? They've known that it's been printed for a while, but the hope was that there would be at least some gold in there. How much gold do you think is in Fort Knox? None? Some? 10% of what they're claiming? 50%? Do you think all of it's in there? Do you have faith in the government? I would really love for you to say, Patriot Nurse, you are so wrong, and here's why, in the comments below. To highlight this point about many different countries pulling their gold back home, the Bank of England has a vaulting system which holds a lot of gold for really a lot of different countries around the world. And since 2024, they have had their gold decreased in total of approximately 66 billion British pounds in value. Where is this money going? Where is this gold going? Countries are bringing it back home because they know that a lot of these vaulting systems don't have enough gold. So for instance, how does this work? You get a certificate of deposit effectively. Your gold, your X number of bars, your X number amount of gold is in a vault. And then when you show up and you say, hey, I want my gold back, they give you the gold out of the vault. Not necessarily the same gold that you put in there. Some cases this may be different. But effectively, a lot of countries are recognizing that these vaults don't have enough gold to back their sovereign debts, so they're rehoming it. An interesting thing to note is that Australia actually found fake gold in the Bank of England. So when you consider that the UK is having their gold in the vaults of the Bank of England rehomed by the countries who initially deposited it, that's going to have a global impact, right? Not just on these countries who are bringing that gold back, but also on the global financial system. One of the other things that's interesting, if you pay attention to the commodity markets, gold is at a high right now, and it's been trending upwards. There's a reason for this. In times of uncertainty, of course, gold likes to be held by a lot of different investment accounts and people who manage large amounts of money. But when it comes right down to it, gold is really the longest held currency in human existence. It is a store of value, but also a tradability of value. So it's not only an asset, but it has the capability to act as a currency. The challenge is that in our internet-based age, people are not going to be able to transact goods and services in gold, like even silver, for instance. If you want to buy, for instance, a $25 item off of Amazon, you're not going to just send them through the vault carriers or mail them your silver. They're not going to take it. It's not going to happen. So what does an internet-based age of commerce do when the global financial system completely falls apart? So let's consider the possibility that the audit of Fort Knox shows that the gold reserves are significantly lower, or that there aren't any there at all. One thing you can guarantee will happen is that inflation is going to take off, probably going to skyrocket. You could potentially see hyperinflation. And I don't think a lot of people have really wrapped their head around what that looks like. That is a very scary thing that nobody alive who has grown up in the United States has seen. And countries who have experienced this in the past, the people who did the best at that time were people who owned assets and really who could take care of their basic needs. I've had, throughout the years of teaching, I've had several students in my classes, naturalized American citizens, who came from places like Argentina, like Zimbabwe, formerly Rhodesia, and also South Africa, who experienced these things. And one of the things that I remember hearing was that people were effectively going and spending their paychecks before they got home on something, anything. Even if they had a toaster at home, they would buy 2 toasters just to shove their fiat currency into a mechanism to hold some type of value and asset. And so hyperinflation looks like a lot of panicked people, a lot of very scared people who do not know where their next meal is coming from and who are afraid that they're going to lose everything. And fear is a very, very powerful driver for mankind. It causes people to do things they would have never previously considered doing. From an international scale, the dollar, if the Fort Knox vaults being audited showed that there wasn't gold, the dollar's global reserve status would tank. Some people would say, oh, the dollar's global reserve status would never tank. That would never happen. The rest of the world has nowhere to go. Wrong. There are competing currencies that are all over the world that are increasingly backed more and more by gold. China is one of them, Russia potentially, but universally, pretty much everybody in the developed world right now has a phone, a smartphone, that they can use to log on to the internet with. And when you consider doing business and transacting in an internet age, cryptocurrencies are going to completely shine in that. In the internet age, you're not going to be transacting in silver if you're doing business with someone 300 miles away. It's inefficient. It may be a stable asset relatively, but it's not an efficient, commerciable tool. If you're trying to do business in the internet age, you're not going to accept hard assets like silver and gold to pay for things for the most part. There may be some renegades out there who do, but the vast majority of people in the world do not have access to silver. They don't have access to gold, and they certainly don't have vaults in which to bank it. They may shove stuff under their mattresses or bury it in the garden somewhere. But for the age in which we live, in the internet-based age, where you go and to pay for things, it takes seconds to do it, and you don't touch any physical assets, that's probably not going to reverse. If anything, it's going to continue to go forward. And so what that means is that cryptocurrencies are going to become widely adapted as an alternative. And that's scary to a lot of people, mostly because they don't understand it. And I respect that. But the reality is we are facing down a potential catastrophic series of events should our government be found to not be keeping its promise. Which, think about governments throughout history and think about governments over the past 50 years. Have they really kept, in the United States, has our federal government kept its promise to its citizens? Think about Social Security. The same people, think about this, the same people who now have run Social Security into effectively defunctness, do you think that they're actually going to have the self-discipline to maintain gold reserves at Fort Knox? I don't. So one of the other things that is a real possibility in the case of hyperinflation is bank runs and also mobs, looting, rioting, particularly in Democrat strongholds and sanctuary city blue state strongholds, because there is no rule of law there, effectively. The Democrats who run these inner city areas and really the urban areas of the United States, they have no respect for the rule of law. And now they want to agitate. Although I do see them using this potentially as an opportunity, in the words of Rahm Emanuel, never let a good crisis go to waste. So I could see the Democrats trying to utilize this as some additional factor to help them rally and organize people, and blame Trump for things which really are not his fault, right? And blame the current administration for things that are clearly not their responsibility. If anything, the current administration, in doing an audit of Fort Knox, would dispel any hope whatsoever that people can be trusted in DC and the swamp can be trusted. So I anticipate that the Democrats would use the fallout for this really to go on a thug spree of their own. That's what they do. They don't have the popular vote anymore, so they can't claim they're the party of the people, but they are the party of the mob, that's for sure. So I anticipate that in the chaos that would come from the uncertainty and the fear and the doubt, that they would try and utilize their mobs to accomplish their political will. So now we're at the what do we do factor, Patriot Nurse. We know that this audit is coming. Fort Knox is going to be audited, and the likelihood, in my opinion, is that they are not going to find what the American people have been promised is there. And I would probably guess that there's less than half on an ideal day of what they said is there. And when that is discovered, that's going to have real and drastic implications on our economy. The stock market will probably not respond favorably, and commodities are probably going to soar after that. So plan accordingly. If there are certain things that you know you need every month, then I would stock up on them. And everybody needs to know, for instance, like how to feed themselves and how to defend themselves and how to take care of their family's medical needs at home. So the commodities that go along with that are beans, bullets, and Band-Aids, or medical supplies. And so as we are looking forward to being prepared for this potential reality, we need to own and take a hard evaluation, a hard look at what are the commodities that we use in our everyday lives and try and stock up on them, mainly to shield ourselves from being priced out of purchasing them due to shortages or just inflation in general. When it comes to spending your money wisely, always invest in yourself. Invest in your skill set. Invest in your capability to meet your needs without respect to anybody else. That's what self-sufficiency is. If you're interested in getting squared away from a medical standpoint, I can definitely help you with that. When you look at the cost of medical procedures, the cost of, for instance, drugs, pharmaceuticals, and any type of really supplement, it's gone up significantly since COVID, and inflation is to blame for a lot of this, but also supply lane shortages. You want to be able to take care of your family's medical needs without having to be dependent upon people. And so that's where I can help you. I won't be teaching classes in person this year, but you can train with me online. I've got 2 courses online, a 4-hour and a 7-hour course. And for a very limited time, to help people get prepared, we are running a promotion. On the website, thepatriotnurse.com, we're running that promotion, and you can save yourself about $50 as it sits right now. Don't know how long this is going to last. Probably not going to be forever, that's for sure. Actually, it definitely won't be forever. This is a very limited amount of time, and if you want to save yourself some money, you can head on over there to the website, thepatriotnurse.com. So friends, I expect that when they do this audit, that the emperor is really going to be running around butt naked. He won't just have no clothes. The emperor's going to be butt naked. And when they find out that the gold that was promised the American people to be there is not there, that's going to cause people to go into a fear doom loop cycle. And if that happens, we're looking at everything getting much more expensive. A lot of geopolitical instability will result because of this. Because when it comes right down to it, a lot of nations go to war, not just for political reasons, but because of economic reasons. And so at that point, in the dust that would fall as a result of this, I would expect China to move to take Taiwan. I would also expect that there's going to be a lot of reshuffling when it comes to places, for instance, in Africa. China does hold a lot of metals and resources, earth-based resources in Africa. And in the shakeup that would come from the United States dollar losing its global reserve status because of loss of faith in it, I could see a lot of things moving, not just in Africa, but really the rest of the world. I hope the video was helpful for y'all. Make sure that you prioritize the beans, bullets, and Band-Aids. Make sure you can feed yourself. Make sure you can defend yourself. And make sure you can care for people's healthcare needs. I hope the video was a blessing for y'all. If you did enjoy it, please smash that like button for me. And also share this with one person who you know needs to be prepared for times coming. Have a great week, y'all. May the Lord bless and keep you. For now, it's Patriot signing off, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.